We zijn in het Vondelhotel in Amsterdam en we interviewen Gail Giles over 2 van haar boeken. What Happened to Cas McBride and Right Behind You, die op de lijst van de jonge jury staat. Gail Giles, you wrote What Happened to Cas McBride. What does happen to her?
She is buried alive.
And why was she buried alive?
She's a manipulative person, and she turns down a date with the younger brother of another boy who is very volatile. And so he is the type that if there is something that doesn't work for him or something that he doesn't want, then he gets rid of it. He doesn't want to see it anymore, so he buries it underground. So he buries her underground.
Yeah, he doesn't just bury her underground, but he buries a small microphone with him, with her as well.
A walkie-talkie, yes.
A walkie-talkie, just to tease her, to torment her, really.
Yes, he's afraid she's so self-centered she might not understand why she's buried underground. So he wants to make sure that she understands why she's buried. So he's going to torment her even more by talking to her.
Now, a lot of people can be annoying, but how can she become so much annoying that she will be buried alive with a microphone to torment her?
He has watched her before, and she is everything that he thinks his mother was. She is a representation of his mother, and so he has some other issues that work all together. It's a psychological thriller. Okay. So there's a lot of psychological things going on there that he's using her as a representation for his mother.
Yeah. Another psychological book is Right Behind You, which also deals with a tragic accident, so to speak, of a young boy. Can you tell more about this book?
This one is certainly more of an accident than burying someone alive. 2 boys were playing, and one boy has a baseball mitt, and he's telling the other one, "I got this from my mother. You'll never get one from your mother," because the other boy's mother is dead. And so he splashes him with gasoline, which happens to be there for another reason, and then he lights the lighter and throws it on the baseball glove. But the other boy, of course, catches fire at the same time and dies. Yeah. And so that is the accident that happens there.
It's more the anger of one moment.
It's the anger of the moment that catches up with him. But of course, he does something that he knows he should not be doing.
Yeah. So he is sent to some prison.
He is sent to a he's sent to a hospital that deals with very violent offenders. Yeah. So it is a lockdown hospital for violent offenders.
Yeah. There's 2 people having committed a crime that killed another human being, but they deal in different ways with the things they have done wrong. Can you explain the differences between these 2 people?
Well, one girl Cas did not kill the boy outright. He committed suicide. He had other issues besides what Cas did. And so the other boy actually did kill the boy in question. And yet I find him less responsible than Cas was responsible for what she did. Yeah. And yet it can be argued both ways. Yeah. Yeah.
Can both books in this way be really compared?
I think they can be compared. I think they can be compared as to who is more responsible for which death.
Yeah. Where did these 2 books start? Perhaps on different occasions, but where do these criminal offenses come from?
In my mind?
Yeah, either from your mind or...
Very different places. When I wrote Cas McBride, I lived in Alaska, and we had a record snow, and the whole idea was the idea of being entrapped, and the idea also of people that words can hurt you more than anything else. And so those things coalesced until I came up with the story. Right Behind You there were 2 cases of young men that had killed when they were very young. They were being tried as an adult, which I don't think any country but the United States will try a very young person as an adult. And the good thing about the United States is I get to disagree with that policy, and I very much disagree with that policy. Yeah. And this book was written in response to that. I wanted to see that you can definitely save a young person that commits a murder when they are quite that young.
Yeah. So it's not only a good book, but it's also some kind of a social statement.
Yeah, I really was making a social statement in that one, which I don't know. It's especially my point as a writer. I didn't want to batter people over the head with it, but it was a secondary thing that was in there.
Yeah. How did you succeed in writing these books with a really haunting sort of style?
I always like to take a character that is not very sympathetic and see if I can make them sympathetic before it's over with. And I think that's the way this haunting style gets into there, because you start with somebody you don't really like, and then little by little by little you start to understand. And I think that's where the haunting style comes from.
Is it important to try to understand a criminal, perhaps?
I don't think every criminal, but maybe. But I think you can understand, especially with young people that are unsympathetic. I think you want to understand that what made them that way, and is it possible for a change to occur?
There are some autobiographical things that happened in your life that returned in the two books, Right Behind You and What Happened to Cas McBride. Can you tell us a little more about it?
Yes, there were, and I don't want people to feel sorry for me. They're just experiences. Other people have had worse experiences in their lives, and I recognize that. The one I think I'll pick out in Cas McBride, when the mother, there's a scene in there where the mother, she plays the two boys against each other, and she will take the older boy and she will make him breakfast every morning. And the younger boy, she tells him, well, you can just make your own breakfast since you don't like what I make you. And so from the time he's like 6 or 8 years old, he has to make his own breakfast. And the only thing he could figure out how to make was soup out of a can. He'd open a can and dump it in the pot and have to pull a little stool up to the stove to be able to make it to the microwave. And that actually did happen to me. I didn't have to make that up. My mother would make breakfast for my brother, and I would have to make soup for breakfast every morning. And I ate soup for breakfast every morning of my life since I was I was probably 6 or 7 years old, and that's what I had for breakfast every morning of my life, because I would say that I didn't like what my mother was making. So she said, well, then you'll just have to make it for yourself. And I made soup for breakfast, and that's what I ate until I learned to cook other things. And so there were a lot of, and then I think, as someone else mentioned to me, one of your cameramen here said that I probably took my anger in it and put it into Right Behind You, and I think that was in a very astute comment there that I'm sure I probably did. The anger of it moved over into another book. But that's why a lot of my books are dark, and they usually don't have very good parental figures in them.
Because of your own youth.
Because of my own youth, yes. And so, but a lot of people come from not very happy homes, and I think that's where a lot of my readership comes from, because we have a lot of unhappy children at home.
They can get some kind of recognition in your books.
And they get recognition and some validation, you know, that everything's not the happy little family that's there, and there are troubled, you know, children that come to these books.
Okay, well, thank you very much.
You're welcome.